And it wasn't just a little bit of ridicule, it was just soaked, it was dripping out of his speech. There was so much of it. Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins out there around the world, it's time to plug in. Let's get the train chugging. Off to the newsroom. Last night, Obama delivered a blistering rebuke of Trump. My man BHO lit up the DJT. A blistering rebuke. First of all, a rebuke to rebuke somebody. Yes, and a rebuke is to criticize somebody very harshly, especially for actions that they have taken, things that they have done, or also things they haven't done. If something is blistering, it means, well, let's say you burn yourself, right? Ow, that hurts, and then you get that weird little bubble on your hand, on your finger, maybe taking a frozen pizza out of the oven, and then you get that bubbly thing there. That is a blister. And so if it's a blistering rebuke, well, that means he got burned, because anger involves heat, and heat causes blisters. He issued a blistering rebuke of Trump, and let's learn more in the caption here below. The former US president aired his most direct attacks on Trump in his return to the campaign trail, helping his former vice president Joseph Biden become elected the next president of the United States. It's a nice phrase here, leveled critiques and personal barbs. And to level something means, well, if it's vertical, to make it level. If a picture on the wall might be a bit askew, you need to level it out. Now, why we level critiques and criticisms against somebody, I don't exactly know, but notice what my hand does. Maybe it's because you're putting it flat on their head, or you're going down to their level. I'm not exactly sure, but it's a nice phrase, a way to diversify your vocabulary, to level criticism against somebody. Critiques are often given, well, criticism might be just to point out the flaws in something. A critique is usually designed to, well, point out the flaws, but in hopes that they will make improvements. At least that's the way I feel it in my heart of hearts. And substantive, that means there was a lot of substance to it. It wasn't just a bunch of fluff like in a pillow. It wasn't a bunch of nonsense. There was some cold hard facts. There was some something actually in there. And personal barbs. Ooh, interesting. Now, a barb, like if you've ever been fishing, you've got the fish hook, right? And on the inside of the hook here, there's often this little metal spur thing. That is the barb, which then prevents the hook from leaving the fish's mouth. But the barb is very sharp and pointy, much like a thorn on a rose. And so a barb is sharp and pointy, and it hurts. And so, yes, personal barbs intended to sting, to poke and cause pain. Yeah, it's nice that he finally opened up and let loose on, unleashed a fury of criticism. Now, stay tuned, because at the end, we're going to come back to this, because the page refreshed as I was putting together the broadcast, and with the never-ending A/B testing, there was another recast of these headlines and caption, which were gorgeous, and we'll come back and take a look at those at the end. I just don't want to be too redundant here at the beginning. Let's move on. New images show NASA's spacecraft's historic landing on an asteroid. Remember, this is the first time, I do believe, that something has done this, or virtually the first time. Either way, it's historic. That means it's making history. Historical is about history. Historic is making history, because it landed on an asteroid. It was flying behind it in millions of miles an hour or whatever, and then it landed on that little piece of land that is the asteroid itself. Much like a plane can take off into the air and then again land when it returns to terra firma, the Earth. In this case, though, it's an extraterrestrial object. Alright, moving on. A Japanese man invented an edible plastic bag. Ooh, edible, fancy word meaning that you can eat it. Now, if you were to go out there and say eatable, that would be absolutely fine. People will understand what you mean. However, that is not the correct term. Edible means that you are able to eat it. Now, technically, I think virtually any plastic bag is in fact edible. However, it's probably going to cause some problems for you and wreak havoc on your body, if not kill you. This one, I guess, maybe is your body can break it down and pass it through without causing any harm. Kudos to you. I don't know why that's so important, but it is interesting, I guess. Moving on. Oh, the Borat sequel somehow still manages to serve up audacious surprises. Ooh, audacious, coming from the noun audacity. If you have the audacity to do something, it means that you're undertaking some risky and or shocking behavior. Yeah, and so, well, as we know, Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen, is a shocker. Let's move on. Obama tells young voters they can create a new normal in America. Oh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? As he gears up to hit the campaign trail. To hit the road, to hit the trail, that means just to get moving. And, well, we always say campaign trail. Don't ask me why. But the path of towns and cities that you go travel around the country to visit to promote yourself or whoever it is that you are endorsing for office. But he's gearing up. It is a good phrasal verb that we use, meaning to prepare things. And I forgot to put the phone, which is my camera for this, onto airplane mode. So you might see the occasional notifications popping up here. Rookie error. Well done, Mr. Janes. That's sarcastic. Very poorly done. To gear up for something or gear up to do something means to prepare yourself. It could mean getting the appropriate gear that will be needed to perform some sort of task. Let's see, I've got my goggles and I've got my pliers and a clamp. Now I'm all geared up and ready for whatever task this is. Or you could also see it as gearing up, like getting the car shifting into gear so that way you're ready to move forward and hit the road. Take your pick on which flavor, which aspect of that you like, but it means to prepare, to start doing something. Moving on. Now, a gaffe is a blunder, a mistake. It's when you put your foot in your mouth, a faux pas, if you will, in that beautiful term that we borrowed from the French. And if you are prone to doing something, that means that it happens to you often, maybe a little bit too often, and against your will. Some people are accident prone, right? And accidents just keep happening to them. And so if you are gaffe prone, much like people would say about Joe Biden, he used to make faux pas and put his foot in his mouth a lot. He's trying to avoid that at the moment. Yeah, but even one of them slips up a couple times, all of the women in society, if not all the women politicians, pay a price, which means that they are looked down upon, condescended to, and seen as inferior to the men. Yeah, all right, let's move on. Ooh, tensions have reignited in France after the teacher's beheading, which we spoke about earlier in the week. But yes, to ignite means to start, like a fire, yeah? When you turn the key in your car, that is the ignition, because it causes the engine to fire up or start. And they are reigniting, so again, and tensions. So, we used to see it a lot on the show, but it hasn't been so common recently. But so, you've got a piece of rope or a strap here. Right now it is loose. And when it's loose, we can say that it's relaxed. But if you make it tight, if you make it tense, yeah, then it is full of tension. And if it's too tight for too long, it could just snap. And then everything is released, and that could cause massive problems. Just like if some bad situation's happening, you squeeze all your muscles and you're very tense, because something bad's happening, and if you snap, well, that's not good. And so tensions have begun again. People are nervous, people are worried, people are angry as well, and that could pose a problem for France, if not, well, the entire world. Because once it kicks off in one place, other places tend to get swept up into it, to borrow a phrasal verb from another past episode. Moving on, little piece of bright light in this dark world. The Pope has endorsed same-sex civil unions. Now, these are not marriages, but they're like legal marriages, saying that, well, you know what, you can cohabitate and live together and be partners. Now, he probably wouldn't out and out support gay marriage or same-sex marriage. However, he now approves of people cohabitating in a partnership. Good. That's a step in the right direction, a step forward for the Catholic Church, which seems to all too often be stuck or mired in the past. But as we know, this Pope is a little bit more progressive than most, and he is facing some backlash and pushback, if not outrage, from other members of the clergy, if not just members of the Catholic faith. But to endorse something means to approve of it. Think about putting your stamp saying, all right, I approve of this. It's okay. That's a good thing. Well done, Popey Pope. Moving on. A shoddy study has been linked to Steve Bannon, that weird political sloth that was an advisor to Donald Trump. Shoddy just means of poor or inferior quality, typically because somebody didn't take the time to try and craft it very well. Yeah, the study apparently was very poorly done, and therefore the results of the study should not be trusted. And maybe they're not verifiable, maybe the sample size was way too small. Who knows exactly, but go figure. Like most of my clothes, you could say he was shoddily dressed. Moving on. Democrats are going to boycott the vote on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination for the Supreme Court in a form of protest. And remember, to boycott something means to not participate in it, typically meaning to refuse to pay for services rendered by that. Comes from Ireland, if I remember correctly, where the wealthy landowner kept trying to raise the rent on his tenant farmers, and so eventually they just said, nah, we're not paying anymore, and basically drove him into bankruptcy. And his name, Mr. Boycott, Jimmy John Boycott, I forget his first name, will now live on forever in infamy. The rivalry between Washington and Beijing. If people are rivals, they are competitors. Yeah? And it's not like a one time, but a long time. Back and forth, much like if you follow, well, I mean, you could say Barca and Real Madrid, or Arsenal and Man U. I don't know. I plead ignorance on that one. Or the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers, or the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals. It's a back and forth over a long period of time, competing against each other, trying to defeat each other. The rivalry is heating up. See, as always, it's getting warmer, it's getting hotter, it's heating up, and heat is anger, and tensions are rising. Beijing is commemorating victory in its war to resist the U.S. aggression. To commemorate, to memorialize in an effort to celebrate some sort of victory or achievements, yeah? Often the president gives out these medals of honor to commemorate the achievements that people have accomplished or their contributions to society. In the war to resist U.S. aggression. I don't know what aggression this is. No, I'm not saying there hasn't been. I just haven't read the story. Is it about trade policies? Is it about military? Because we haven't gone to war against them, and hopefully we don't. But I don't really know to which U.S. aggressions they are referring. All right, last one before we jump back up to the top. Election. This election, if not all past election cycles, this one in particular has confirmed to China that democracy is a circus. Now, everybody loves the circus. No, not everybody loves the circus. Some people don't like clowns. Other people don't believe in the wild animals being beaten or trained and so on, held in captivity. However, the circus is a spectacle. There's many things going on. There's the guy on the tightrope, walking with the big pole down across the wire. There's trapeze artists flying through the air, clowns driving around those little cars, a guy whipping tigers, elephants, doing some weird dance. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's just entertaining and doesn't amount to anything. Yeah, it's out of control. It's just a whole bunch of nonsense going on. And so when we say that something is a circus, it just means that it's unorganized and really not very productive. Now, when I first started setting up the show, Obama delivered that blistering rebuke of Trump, and he aired his direct attacks, leveling critiques and barbs. As I was getting the show ready then, the page refreshed, and they gave us a brand new variation on this. And so instead of a blistering rebuke, here it is a scathing rebuke. Now, if something is scathing, it's very similar to blistering in a way. It's a very, very harsh criticism due to something that they have done. Yeah, very, very vocal and critical. The fun stuff is what's down here, though. Obama, in a moment of catharsis. I love this word, catharsis, and then as an adjective, it was cathartic. And that means the release of emotions that have been contained, dare I say, bottled up and kept inside, and we've been controlling them and suppressing them, and it's just one of those moments where you go, oh, God, that feels good. It was a very cathartic moment for me, and this was apparently very cathartic for a lot of people. Why? It doubled as a warning against Democratic complacency. We're ahead in the polls, but that doesn't mean get lazy. You need to go vote, otherwise we will lose. But then also blasted Trump in a speech dripping with ridicule. I love this visual vocabulary. And so yes, you might know the word ridiculous, which means silly or crazy, but if you ridicule someone or you treat them with ridicule, you're making fun of them in a way that it just shows a complete lack of respect, and you are humiliating them. And it wasn't just a little bit of ridicule, it was just soaked, it was dripping out of his speech. There was so much of it. And he wasn't just criticizing, he was making fun of him. And if there's one thing DJT cannot stand, is being made fun of. Because he's just a precious little snowflake. Blasted, as we know, is to criticize vocally. Complacency, if you are complacent, it means that you are self-satisfied and therefore unwilling to change, and often as a result get left behind or defeated. That's why he's warning against complacency, because if people think, everything's fine, and choose not to go vote, we could have an upset much like we did in 2016, and this nonsense will be started all over again. So it doubled his speech in this moment of catharsis, and I love this. You can tell he's just making fun of him there. He's like, ooh, ooh. But no, it doubled as a warning and criticism. And so if something doubles as two things, like double agents, they work for the Russians and for the Americans, etc., etc., ad infinitum, ad nauseum. But yeah, there was just some great vocabulary, and I really wanted to get into both of them here because it's the same lead story with some different language therein. And so those were the headlines for today. Hey, thanks Little Mushrooms for tuning in, everybody. That was breaking down the news once again for English. Otherwise, if you like what we do, please click the like, follow, subscribe, little bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. Make the world a better place, help somebody out, pass us along to a friend. Somebody else out there probably would get a kick out of what we do and stand to benefit from tuning in. So pass us along. Today is Thursday, no crossword this evening. However, I'll be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. for another edition of Breaking Down the News, and in the PM for a little bit of crossword and, fingers crossed, a little bit of extra bonus fun. All right, it's off to breakfast. If I don't see you sooner, see you tomorrow morning. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.